Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This will be my review of Hellraiser 2022, the brand new Hellraiser film. Touted as connected to the original movies, but upon reality, when you watch it, it is its own thing. There are no connections remotely. And I believe that was further elaborated on by David Bruckner in an interview where he said, it could fit in, but we didn't have anything. There were plans to have a cameo from Elliot Spencer, but like I said, there are no connections remotely to the original films. This is a remake, reimagining, however you want to frame it, which does stand on its own 2 feet. It reshapes the lore of the universe in a refreshing way, but it could be better. Now, this leans very heavily on addiction. Addiction is the catalyst for most events in this film, if not all of them. Whether that be, Mr. Voight, played by Goran Visnich, his addiction to, the flesh and sort of narcissism and pleasures, debauchery essentially, which led him to finding out about the Cenobites and what they could offer. And subsequently, his sort of demand for further pleasures. It was his addiction which consumed him, all the way through to Riley, played by Odessa Zion, being an addict, and this being the linchpin of her downfall. And actually, even to how the box interacts with you. It cuts you upon solving a configuration, claims your blood, but it also intoxicates you, leaves you feeling woozy, as if on a high. So these themes of addiction run very deep within this movie, but they could have been explored better. However, that being said, this movie is 2 hours long, which I thought was very long for a Hellraiser movie, I must say, but it didn't feel long. I do think if you were to try to explore things a little bit deeper with the addiction side of things, or maybe out and out explicitly state more, it could rough up that pace and bring it down a little bit too much. So, although I think that the addiction element was done well, and it could have been done better, I don't know of an exact way of how I would personally go about it. So, what is this movie about? And do I rate it? I do rate it, and I would strongly suggest people go and watch it. This is the best movie since, I don't know. I mean, it's difficult to say without a jaded perspective. I like 1 and 2. Sometimes I like Hellbound. Hellraiser 2 better than the first, but without the first, we don't get the second. 3 and 4 are kind of guilty pleasures. But this is very good, very serious, doesn't have the cheesiness of 3 or 4. So if you're going to compare it to anything, it's comparable to the first and second. Is it going to be the best out of all of them? No, it's not. It is its own thing, and it must be viewed in that way. So what is the story about? It's about our character Riley, a recovering addict who's been sober, living with her brother, and dating Trevor. Trevor, also a recovering addict. And we follow their story. She needs some money. Trevor knows of a rich billionaire's cargo in a warehouse. They go into the warehouse, break into the safe, and lo and behold, it's the Lament configuration. Now, from there, an argument happens between Riley and her brother, and stuff starts to go astray. Her brother gets taken by the Cenobites, and then more and more people start being killed, all the way up to the third act when we are in a mansion, Voight's mansion, and the Cenobites come, and as does Leviathan. Voight plays an integral character here. He is our window to this damned place. He knows about the box, he's done research on the box, he's well versed in it. And some of the stuff I found fascinating about this film, and I paused it whilst watching it, was his journal. And it seems, and I will do a video on this, as with all my other Hellraiser videos I've done, it seems like he stumbled across it. And he stumbled across Pinhead, the Hell Priest. And she is, played by Jamie Clayton, very, very well. Very good. Is it Doug Bradley? No, it's not. But it's its own thing. It's not slapstick. It's not remotely comical. It's not unintentionally funny. It's done very well. There's a lot of presence there. And it's almost as if he summoned the Cenobites and Pinhead and fell in love with her. There's elements of the journal which indicate that, but without seeing it all, it's very difficult to put it all together. But from page to page, what you could read, because I paused it and I scanned it and read it and put it together, it looks like he stumbled across the box, came before the Cenobites, and fell in love with her, and you know what they had to offer, and not necessarily fell in love, but became obsessed, became just, you know, all consumed. And there are comments of the flayed flesh, and that's very Barker-esque. And then from there, he starts to claim souls for the Cenobites so he can get his prize. His prize is an audience with Leviathan. So it changes the lore, and I knew about this anyway because I had sources that had seen the film. And I'm now vindicated on all aspects of everything that I leaked. So please believe me in future if you want leaks for films that are accurate. They changed the lore, and I actually think now I've seen it, because I didn't know what to think when I was, you know, when I knew about this from the leaks. But now I've seen it, and each stage of the lament configuration actually subsequently represents the offer that the Leviathan can give you. And we know that because it comes full circle right at the end of the film, where Riley chooses the gift of the lament configuration and lamentation. She laments, or will lament, her decision not to take a gift. And I thought that was absolutely fantastic. So you solve the box and it changes shape, but it must take a soul first, and a blade comes out and cuts you, and it's blood which calls the Cenobites. So it's not desire, so they have changed that, but you intrinsically have a desire to solve the box as well. There seems to be a pull to the box, again, a semi-addiction. And then each stage it reconfigures into a new configuration. They each have a name: Lament, Lordorant, Liminal, Lazarus, so on and so forth, right? Until Leviathan is the final stage of the configuration, and you get an audience with the Cenobite's god, and then you can get a gift. You request a boon from the god. Why you would ever do that is absolutely beyond me, but never mind, you do. And it's just such a good way of changing things up. It's a very, very smart way to change it. Very, very smart, and I really enjoyed that. So let's talk about, because I'm going to touch on the end as well, because that was a fantastic ending, and we'll probably talk about that, and I'll clip it as an ending explained video. But anyway, we have all of our actors did a very good job, right? They were fine in the role. They are above average. They are above what we have known for all of the director streaming video, whatever movies. They do a very good job in this. Odessa is Ion. She's not a leading lady. She's not. But she does a good job here. But don't go into it expecting her to be a solid, great lead. She's quite a newcomer, generally. And could she be better? Yes. But in her infancy as an actor, she does a very good job. So everyone does a good job. No issues there. There is such a great use of music, from a steady beat which can coincide and almost be allegorical, or representative, should I say, of a heartbeat that starts stemming through into the music, to the subtle pianist score of the original that sort of comes through, the piano. And there is the original score in there, and it's woven in perfectly. Very, very, very well made from an acting perspective, a musical score perspective, and I have to 100% give credit to the incredible cinematography on this film. It is leagues above what we've had for years, and you know you're dealing with someone that is just so incredibly competent by comparison to what we have had, and it just puts it all to shame, all of it to shame. And it's very well shot from a cinematography perspective, and the color grading was done great. The way the new puzzle box shone and flickered in the light was so nicely done. It was very, very well made, and each configuration and how it moved and flowed, fantastic. So intricate, moving. You know, I would love to get a box, you know, put together. You know, there'll be loads of people trying to make these boxes and sell them, and they will make a lot of money, I'm sure, if they can nail it. Now, the costumes of the Cenobites no more are the BDSM clad latex and leather. They are now skinned, flayed flesh, which is quite reminiscent more so of the original novella than the movies. And people will always compare it to the movies, but those that have read a little bit deeper into the mythos and the lore and things know that, yeah, this does actually run a lot deeper than just leather and latex as like a sort of a fetishized approach. And the way the skin is cut off, the costumes are great. The costumes are absolutely stellar. We have not had costumes this good since the original, and the original stands up because it's the original. These costumes are so good. Very, very good. The prosthetics are great. The visual effects are great. There's a scene close to the end where someone has their body put back together. And you know what they've done. They've obviously pulled flesh apart with like an acidic compound and sort of stretched it apart, dissolved flesh of some description or something which is dissolvable, and then filmed it backwards, or filmed it and then just reversed it. And it's shades of the original where Frank is coming out the floor and you see the heart come back and the body and the bones and the flesh, and just, it was very well made. All of that was great. All of that was great. Now, I guess the real downsides of this film, the pace wasn't a downside. I enjoyed the pace. I enjoyed the pace a lot. I think predominantly the downsides come from this being a remake, right? Like, it is a remake. I'm keen to see them do more. I think this is a great entry point to doing more. I don't know where you would go specifically from here, but you can definitely do more with this. But I do also like this just being a one and done. I think this works. I think this works well. The Cenobite design was very good, and the Cenobites as a whole, their designs and the differences between them were great. It goes back to the original where they're not all gimmicks. So if you remember the original, you know, you'd have Chatterer, Butterball, female, aka Deep Throat, and Pinhead, the Hell Priest. In this, you have a whole range. You've got the Priest, Pinhead, Mask, Asphyx. There's a fair few. There's actually quite a lot of Cenobites in this, and they sort of each come out at a stage. Chatterer as well, a new version of Chatterer, which is nice to see. But the designs they're just so well made, but they're not gimmicky. Like we get to Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth, and you've got Camera Face and CD Head and stuff like this, and you know, it almost becomes it almost becomes embarrassing at that point. But there were no gimmicks. The weaponry that they had, they were not gimmickal at all. There was only one Cenobite that seemingly had powers, and it was only used at the end. And it wasn't really powers, it was just the ability to sort of hook someone up, not with chains, but sort of wire. But it worked very, very well. Very, very, very well. And I like the fact that they've gone back to that. There's one Cenobite with more dialogue than we've had before. That worked really, really well. Almost reminiscent of the female. It seemed to be an homage of the female crossed with Angelique from Hellraiser Bloodline. Yeah, I can't put my finger on exactly the major downsides to this film. I think a lot of it's budget related, time related, which I guess could be story related. But overall, I enjoyed this film a lot. I think this film stands up very nicely as a Hellraiser. I think it stands on its own as a Hellraiser. It's not going to win any awards. Like, this is a horror movie, okay? But the house, the intricate design of the house, the set pieces, on location shooting, it was great. It was really, really good. The little nuance behind Pinhead's performance, looking at people and sort of quizzing them. Oh, you're not going to choose that. You're going to choose a life of despair and regret. Well, you choose our gift of lament, of the lament configuration then. It's all these little things that were just so well done. And Goran Voight was great. A very good character. Almost the flip side of Dr. Channard, of the Channard Institute. Almost the flip side of that. Kind of. So, my review is absolutely go and watch this. But let's get on to the ending explained of Hellraiser 2022. And this is where we have to talk about Voight and his obsession. So throughout the movie, just as a quick recap before we get to the ending, because I think that's important, we intro with Voight claiming his prize. He's got a massive party of just out and out debauchery, people fucking left, right and centre, and he's got a victim that he's clearly chosen, someone out of place. This victim is then coerced into a secluded room with all these intricate things around the side, and also artwork, and the artwork seemingly is representative of the Cenobites. Voight makes this guy, doesn't make him, but alludes to, you need to solve this puzzle, I get a prize. You've seen it in the trailer. He solves the puzzle, and then it forms the Leviathan configuration. Now, he then bows before Leviathan and says, grant me this boon. We don't know what it is, but we do later on. Each time Leviathan is summoned, you can choose a gift. The gift is perfectly represented by each configuration now of the box. So knowledge, power, resurrection, pleasure, all of these kind of things, experience. The first time he had Leviathan come to him, he chose pleasure. Sensation, it was. Sorry, it was sensation. And obviously the sensation wasn't to his liking. The sensation was horrendous. It was an intricate sort of mechanism which ran through his body, functioned almost like a heart as well, and would pull on each nerve and thread, and at each point, just as he was getting used to it, it would be another one, another one, another one. So he'd constantly be in pain, basically. And as he says, because he's alive later in the film when he speaks to Trevor, every second is a lifetime for me, because he's in absolute pure agony. So Voight orchestrates the entire events of the film. He wants another audience with the Leviathan. And he does. He gets another audience with the Leviathan. But not before having a discussion with Pinhead, the new Hell Priest. And he discusses with her, I don't want any of your gifts. Take them back. I don't want anything from you. I just want, let me die. Literally, just let me die. Please let me die. Gifts cannot be given back, is the priest's reply. You cannot give the gifts back. But then there's almost an epiphany moment in Pinhead, the priest, saying about everything that he sought wasn't pleasure, it was power. It was dominion, it was dominance over people. He wanted power. That's what he actually wanted. So she suggests to Voight that he can choose power instead. Leviathan configuration, right? He can choose the ultimate gift that the Cenobites offer. Now, I think this is where it's going to split people, because it's not out and out been stated what happens. But I'll explain why I think this is going to be the case. I think we are seeing a Cenobite be created. So a massive hook comes down from Leviathan, spears Voight through the chest, and chains him up, pulls him all the way up into Leviathan. And at the end credits of just before we close to the credits of the film, we watch a new Cenobite creation. And it's this very angelic, holy experience. Beautiful even. And it's a very good play on angels to some, demons to others. He always viewed them as angels. And this is perfectly representative of that. He's fully naked, hairless, completely. And he's watching around. And there's this angelic humming music and things like that. He's looking around and he's all confused. And beautifully done. These two sort of semicircles of gold plate come out and move his arms up, and they sort of almost represent wings behind his back, and it's very religious in its iconography. And then his skin starts getting pulled off, and then pins start going through his throat, and then the flesh of his lips get pulled back. And I thought as I was watching this, he's being turned into the new Chatterer. But I don't think this is the case, and I don't think this is the gift of being a Cenobite. Because he remains in Leviathan. He is given power. Now, we don't know how Leviathan works in this version of Hellraiser. But what if this version of Hellraiser, this Leviathan, is powered by souls? It requires a soul to almost pilot the mechanism. It's very mechanical, isn't it, in its design? Very puzzle mechanic orientated. So what if this Leviathan, and what we witness, is actually Leviathan claiming a new pilot? You know, a Cenobite pilot, as it were. Whatever you want to call it. But someone to maneuver and control, or be a vehicle to power the machine, the infernal beast, the eternal damned, diamond in the sky. Because if we're just watching a Cenobite be created, I like that, and that could be the case. We have just watched a new Cenobite be created. His eyes turned and things like that. It could very well be that. But we close the movie on him still in Leviathan, strung up in, a crucifix pose. And I believe he has now become a vehicle for Leviathan's power. So that's my ending explained of Hellraiser 2022. I think we close with him being the new conduit for Leviathan, the power to run through, or a pilot, however you want to call it. It's not out and out explained. I think it's very much open to interpretation. But if the Leviathan configuration equals power, it's the best gift the Cenobites can offer. And he didn't want any pain. He just wanted power. And the dialogue is dominion over others, dominance over others. That's what you seek. You seek power. And then they give them that. I would say that's probably what it is. Now, being the vehicle in Leviathan is probably not going to be a gift. We know that every gift the Cenobites can offer is not an actual gift. We know that the gifts are twisted, and that's why Riley chooses not to bring her brother back, and why she chooses lamentation, to lament her decision further down the line, hence the lament configuration. But if she chose Lazarus, the Lazarus configuration, the gift of resurrection, would he have actually come back properly? No, of course not. So don't mistake the ending explained here being that Voight has got some grand gift. It's probably torture for all eternity. But power, I guess. Dominion of location over others. Maybe, however you want to look at it. But there you have it, ladies and gents. I hope you enjoyed this video. Go watch the movie. Take care.